You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
What's up, guys? This is another episode of The Clean Truth. I'm Don. I'm your host. Got a pretty special guest today. I've got Trot Nixon. He is a Wilmington native, played Major League Baseball for the Boston Red Sox. Say hi, Trot.
How are you?
I wanted to do an episode today about what life is like after being a competitive athlete. I know the reason that I wanted to do this was Yvonne and I are struggling ourselves, and I know that a lot of people that are close to us are struggling with this ourselves or themselves also. We come from a totally different background, so when I thought about who I wanted to talk to about this, I was like, who do I know personally who's been at the highest competitive level that I could even imagine being at? And you were the first one that came to mind. I instantly knew I wanted to talk to you about this. So before we get into that, do you want to talk about your baseball career at all? Or
Yeah, I mean, I grew up here in Wilmington. Obviously, I played all the sports growing up: football, baseball, basketball, soccer. I was not one of the athletes like they are nowadays, where they're just a lot of kids nowadays are just solely playing one sport to try to get ahead of the game, so to say. I was someone who enjoyed playing as many different sports I possibly could. Obviously, you can gain different attributes from every different sport that you play. I truly believe that. And the biggest thing is that, you know, in all those sports you compete. And so I knew I had that competition in every sport that I played. But I played 4 sports and went to New Hanover High School, played football and baseball. And I mean, obviously, when you get to the high school, it's difficult to be able to play more than 2 sports. Not saying that it can't be done, but it's difficult to be able to maintain the academic side of things like you want to, and to be able to keep your body in the kind of shape, have the rest that you need to be effective out there. But so I played football and baseball, signed a scholarship to play football and baseball as well at NC State. But in June of 1993, I was drafted in the first round of the MLB Players Draft. And growing up, that was a dream of mine, was to play professional baseball. I loved my pursuit of wanting to play football and baseball at the collegiate level, being a student athlete and everything that comes with that. I had zero interest in ever trying to play NFL and Major League Baseball at the same time. That was just something I didn't care for. I just wanted to play collegiate football. And but like I said, my dream was to play professional baseball. And I did go to fall camp at NC State, and I just realized how much baseball meant to me and how I wanted to go ahead and start my career. So I signed in '93 with the Boston Red Sox, and from that point on, I played baseball up until the spring of 2009. Majority of my career was spent in Boston and their organization at the major league level. Played a year in Cleveland, and also played split time between the minor leagues with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and then spent a couple months at the major league level with the Mets before I played my last spring with the Brewers in 2009.
Nice. I know the one thing I wanted to bring up, even though I've given you a hard time about it for a couple of years now coming in the cafe, and I think I've watched this video clip about 18,000 times, like Joe Buck is still ringing in my ear, is in that game in 2004 where you hit a 2-run double off the right field wall. And I think I can still remember what I was doing in my living room when I said a few choice words that I won't repeat now when you hit that.
Exactly. Now, first of all, you know, I come here and you're decked out in all your Cardinals gear.
Well, yeah,
I should have come decked out in all of my Red Sox gear. But yeah, I mean, obviously, when you talk about highlights in a career, my number one highlight is going to be able to be, you know, playing in the World Series and being able to win a World Series, being on a team that won a World Series championship. And that was kind of a whirlwind type of a year. I went through I went through an injury that plagued me for a majority of the year until I finally sat back with the training staff and the coaching staff to say, you need to get healthy more than anything. So, God was definitely right there side by side with me because they thought there was no way that I could get back healthy to be able to play in the playoffs, but I was ready 3 weeks in advance. I was fortunate. What I did was I left the team and trained with a physical therapist that dealt a lot with hockey players. So it was just he and I working out together. I didn't take up trainers away from the players who were actively playing. So I think that was a big help, and because I was able to do more in that rehab process. And so I got back. We had a memorable time against the New York Yankees, down 3-0, and like Major League Baseball's never seen before, we battled back. We just played inning by inning, and we're able to come back and win the American League Championship against our rivals. And on to St. Louis, and that at bat kind of typified everything. You brought up that at bat. It was funny. It was a 3-0 count, and in my career, I may have swung at maybe 2 or 3 pitches in a 3-0 count. And that was when the manager wanted me to work on something, during the season.
Yeah.
The last time I did it was with Grady Little, and I hit a home run in Tampa. And it's all about, kind of the mental approach. A lot of guys, when they're 3-0, they kind of shut down that mental approach to the baseball and force the pitcher to try to throw a strike and then go back and work 3-1. Well, he wanted me to just sit there and treat it like it was a 2-0 count, even though it was 3-0. And every now and then you'll get a cookie right down the middle.
Yeah.
That's what I got. And then the same thing in St. Louis, except I wasn't given the green light. I thought my third base coach, Dale Swain, gave me the green light, and I kind of looked over in the dugout, and Tito Francona, Terry Francona, Tito's his dad, was looking down at the time, and Coach Mills, our bench coach, Brad Mills, was sitting there clapping his hands, giving me a little fist pump, like, let's go, yeah, go swing it. I was like, wow, they're green lighting me right now. So Marquise threw that pitch in there, and I put enough wood on it to hit it out there in the right center off the wall. At first I thought Edmonds was going to catch it. It was going to be another one of his highlight films. But when it hit the wall, obviously I was overjoyed and got to second base, and it made for good comedy because we did win the ball game. And then after that at bat, Tito, asked me what in the world I was doing, but in the process he was laughing. And I told him, I said, I'm serious. I thought you gave me the green light. That's why I looked in the dugout, but you were too busy spitting on the ground looking down that I didn't get because Tito was great, and he knew his players, and that if at any time his player looked into the dugout, he knew that hitter was unsure about something. So he'd be like, he'd step out, he'll make sure the third base coach didn't give something that he didn't know about. And I said, that's what I was looking for. And but, of course, he was spitting tobacco on the ground, and so I just took it as a green light.
Mine and thousands of others' dreams were crushed at that moment. But all right, getting into what I really wanted to talk to you about, and you kind of touched on it a second ago when you said you came back from injury, you were able to play again. Talk about some of the struggles that you went through after you retired, trying to stay competitive. Because I know, Yvonne and I competed in the fitness industry, and I know it's a completely different ball game. But being a competitive athlete, everybody's mindset's the same. You want to stay competitive as long as you can. Mm-hmm. And that is one thing that we're trying to do right now, except our mindset's starting to shift a little bit towards just staying healthy versus being competitive. We don't. Yeah. But, did you, after you retired, what was that like trying to deal with? Did you know that did you just shut it down and not think about it?
I think what I did was I tried to play mind tricks with myself. And what I mean by that was I wasn't ready to stop playing baseball. And because baseball was, pretty much all I knew. It was my way of life. It was my livelihood. And to go through spring and then basically have zero chance of making a roster that I felt like I should have been on the roster, that kind of plays, tricks on you a little bit. So definitely it's a transition period. I still held out hope that somebody would sign me. I think Major League Baseball at the time was going through some things where it seemed as though players that fit my identity, they were utilizing younger players, maybe guys who may or may not have been ready for the Major League season and everything that that season will bring to them, because maybe they were a little less expensive. People would ask me about that, and I said, look, I'd play for nothing. I just wanted to play. And when I said nothing, I meant it. You just give me an opportunity, a jersey, that's fine. I'm not looking for millions of dollars. The only way you can get that is if you are able to play significant enough time and do well, then, maybe a contract be in order. But I didn't care. I just wanted to play. I wanted to be in a clubhouse on a roster. I wanted to compete. So it was definitely a transition period. I know there was depression involved in all that, even though I wouldn't. You and maybe a couple other people know now that, I was depressed. And I know if it wasn't for my two boys, and obviously my wife, Catherine, if they weren't in my life, I don't know where I'd be. I don't know what I would have done. But I probably would have left the country and tried to play baseball, overseas somewhere. I even asked to do that, but that just never worked out. But it's definitely difficult because like I said, it was my way of life for, almost 20 years, or 15 years. So it's a difficult transition, and I think it is for every professional athlete or someone who has made a living doing something for a long period of time. When that time comes up, there's going to be a situation where they just don't know what to do. Right. And I think the biggest thing for me, like I said, I had a distraction of two boys at the time, and they were just getting into sports. So my transition period into that, was really good. Now, I had a lot to learn on how to coach. I couldn't have the same type of attitude that I had as a professional athlete with kids who were, 4, 5, and 6 and 7 years old. So that was a transition period, and that kept me busy. I had an opportunity to go with two other former baseball players to Iraq and visit, our military men and women over there as they were, at war. And I thought it was eye-opening. It was great. And, people ask, well, what in the world did you do over there? I said, we just spent time with the military, all the men and women that were over there, and listened to their stories. And, if they wanted to hear one of our stories, we would. I actually went over there with Jeff Nelson, who was a Yankee. And it just made – for a comical time between the Yankee fans and the Red Sox fans overseas. But, so there's a lot of things. And I think it's important to have the right people surrounding you. There's always times, and I never felt this way, but there's always times for some professional athletes that they get pulled in so many different directions. And so many people, in a nice way want things from them, and then all of a sudden when the game's over, a different group of people, you kind of know who your friends are. And but I always knew that. I never went through situations like that, but I do know that other former teammates have gone through those things. But it's a battle. It's tough. It's not easy. And I think you've heard even speculation in the NFL, having kind of a transitional a transitional team to help guys transition from being professional athletes to being, everyday citizens. Because there's a lot of guys that struggle. A lot of guys have been, have bankrupted themselves and gone through difficult times with family and so forth. But, I had strong faith, and I had a great family. I had a great support system. I knew who, my closest friends were, and what I had to keep saying, hey, this is the next chapter in my life, because I felt like if God wanted me to be on a baseball field, he'd put me there. Well, he did, just in a different way, coaching-wise. And so I grew my passion. My passion became just, helping my two boys and all the kids that they played with, just kind of pouring out everything I possibly could for them in football and baseball. So that transition, it's still ongoing, obviously. But when guys, like myself, when they're away from the game, it's just it's difficult. And people say, well, I don't really care. He made millions of dollars. He did that. That's fine. I don't need any sympathy or anything. Sure. But, there could be somebody else that didn't get all the millions of dollars and so forth, that was accustomed to doing something every day of his life, and now all of a sudden it's over with. It's a transition, and depression plays a big part of it. And, unfortunately, you've seen it on the news where, you didn't think guys were depressed, and, no, they're no longer living. So it's a serious thing for anyone. I don't think it's just athletes. I think it's people – in general. My dad was a doctor his entire life, and he retired, and he actually went back after a couple of years because it was just driving him nuts. And so he worked a few more years after that. It just, he was so used to that life of being a doctor and helping save people's lives and, doing things for them, in the medical community, and until it just got to the point where he was just too old. So
you mentioned your boys. I know you're a big family man. I've had the pleasure of meeting your wife, coming in the restaurant many times. So I guess, do you still struggle with that, needing something to keep yourself? I guess that fills that void, I guess is what you were trying to say. So trying to relate to it, Yvonne and I competed at a pretty high level in the fitness community for a while, and we took a hiatus from it. Every day we wake up and, growing the business, we had to take a step back. We couldn't do it anymore. And I think that we were both okay with that. But now one of the things that we struggle with is even getting up and even having the motivation to work out and do the things that we used to. I mean, working out and competing and dieting and trying to stay in the best shape of our life that was like a religion to us, the same way baseball was for you. And, now that we've taken that hiatus and put our passion and everything into the business and growing the franchise and everything, I've got a guy at my house right now, actually right now as we speak, he's installing a brand new weight rack and stuff so I can start working out a little bit better than what I have been. But that mental struggle, just knowing that I don't have a goal, there's no shows anymore. There's no competitions anymore. So trying to find that mental fortitude to actually just get up and say, all right, man, you're going 100%. I go down, like last night I went down there and I benched for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And my focus was gone. I was already thinking about something else. And I'm like, I have no competitive drive anymore. And it's actually irritating the hell out of me. And I don't know how to kind of even get it 50% back to say, all right, what do you need? Like, what do I need to do? Do I need to pick something and shoot a goal and go for it? Or, I mean, you've been away from the sport for many years now. And I think, being involved in coaching with your kids probably fills that void, but for some other people that don't have that.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they don't have that kid to go and volunteer.
Right.
There are opportunities that you can go out there and do it. I think for me, listen to you talk, I went through it pretty big just recently. And, Catherine got to the point where I talked to her a little bit. I was really depressed, probably within the last 6-7 months wasn't happy with my weight. The want and the will to go work out, just go do something, was never there, and
hard.
I'm hanging around the house just waiting until the end of the school day so that we can go ahead and start, practicing, or go to the ball field or go watch football, do something like that with the boys. So I kind of really got into a bad rut, and but some of my friends just said, why don't you, if you can, have an opportunity. For me, it I was able to afford it, but I went back to one of my old trainers who's kind of right across the street where you guys are, John Maynard at Champion Fitness, and started working out with John. And it was just kind of rekindling that friendship that John and I had years ago. Him and Lee Roderick trained me. But it's quiet in there. I can work out. He says, I want you to do this, this, and that. He's somebody I could talk to and just kind of relate. And I think the biggest thing is when you are taken away from some of those things, sometimes we need to take a step back and just breathe.
Yeah.
Just breathe. And what I've kind of tried to hold on to is a quote that I heard is, if you're not making someone else's life better, you're wasting your own time. So I don't have a job right now. If I wanted to try to get back into baseball, I could. But is that what I really want? Do I want to separate myself from my wife and kids? Because that's what's going to happen. They're in school and you go off and all that stuff. If that's what I really wanted, I probably would have done that. But I see it as opportunities that a lot of the kids that they're around, they're young adults now, but, so you can still make an impact on their life. And I still help out at Pop Warner football, even though I'm not coaching, but there are youngsters out there. I think it's important to sometimes it's good to make goals, achievable goals. And, but for me, it's, sometimes I got to just sit there and breathe, and my wife and I try to do so much for so many people, and it doesn't bother us. It's kind of, it's one of those, I think they call us like a love language. My wife said her love language is gift giving. I was like, you're killing me with this gift giving, but that's just what it is. And being able to go out and try to make an impact in people's life. There's a lot of days where, I'll fall short on that, and I realize that, but having that general view, where this kid might never be a professional athlete, that's fine. I want him to appreciate and love sports and the competition and everything that's going to teach him about himself, because it ain't just about teaching the game. He's also learning about himself, what he can and can't do. But as far as making that transition, I think, a man or woman's got to have purpose in his life. And the purpose that I found is through Christ, Jesus Christ. And that's a big thing, because, just like you guys were trying to impress on a weekend basis, weekly basis, with your training and your meets and all that stuff, I was trying to do the same thing. And, we all perform for an audience of one. That's what one of my teammates said. And I understood exactly what it is, what he was talking about. Yes, I want to do well for the Red Sox fans, my family, myself, my teammates, But if you put things in perspective, it won't make that mountain that you're trying to climb, be steep to where you can't get up it. All of a sudden, it looks a whole lot more easy to complete some of these things, the mental side of all this stuff. And I think it's also important to have people to talk to. I mean, I grew up in a time where I ain't showing my feelings.
Yeah.
You kidding me? Where you can kind of, unload and talk to some people. And that made things better, help me out in baseball. And I know there's a lot of teams now that have team psychologists, and when we first had that, I'm like, what is going on around here? Team psychologist. What am I going to tell him? How's he going to help me get hits?
Right.
But, he kind of puts life in perspective. And so I have people that I make sure around me that, I can, talk to about anything. And I think that's a big thing, being able to surround yourself with the people who care about you and not just someone who's like, well, for you, maybe judge or a trainer or something where you got to do this, and that.
Yeah, Yvonne and I use a life coach regularly.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk to her sometimes twice a month, but automatically it's once a month. Usually around the second week of the month, we have an appointment with her. And I know one of the things that she's kind of instilled in me, well, both of us, but took me a little bit longer to grasp the concept than Yvonne. Yvonne latched onto it immediately and was gratitude. And I had to keep reminding myself of things that I was grateful for because I would always, it's not that I would forget, I would just be so focused on what's next. What else can I do? And instead of, like you said, taking a step back and breathing and actually reminding yourself of how far you've came and then what you're grateful for that you already have than what you've already accomplished.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I know that's a big one for me, and I know a lot of people struggle with it also.
Yeah, and I truly believe that, baseball shouldn't define me. It's a part of my life, and I think every day we wake up, we take that first step forward. God's put us in that position for a reason. And whatever goes on that day, he puts us in that position for a reason. He's never going to put us in a position that, that we can't handle, that he wouldn't be right there side by side with us.
Sure.
That's, some of the things that, I've kind of leaned on. And I think, like I said, it's important for people to have that. And look, I know there's a lot of people out there that don't have that. And that's the fight that America needs to look at more and more. Is, like you said, being grateful, kindness, all this stuff that is simply overlooked, and social media just that's out there. I mean, some of it's good, a lot of it's not. And so it can just tear down people, and you never know because some people just don't open up. Like, for you and I, and, I wasn't brought up that way, and so – it's always going to be a battle, but I think it's a battle every day that you can win as long as you have the right purpose in life and the right people around you. These battles, and here's another thing too, it's what you tell kids. Hey, there's no such thing as a dumb question out here, boys.
That's
they
on
won't
our
ask
website.
it.
That's on my bio.
I know. I see it in the store.
Yeah.
But they don't ask the question because they're worried about perception. This guy thinks I'm not smart or whatever. And I'm like, okay, guys, let me go to another step. If you have some questions and you don't want to answer it, you don't want to say it out loud in front of your teammates because probably 10 of them have that same question, come to me personally and we'll talk about it. But people got to be able to kind of open up and ask for help. And so.
All right. Well,
life in general, there's going to be, it's a succession. Let me see how you put this. There's always a competition around the corner in life, and I think people understand that, for you and I, we competed. People in the working world, they compete too. Maybe on a different level,
context.
In different context. They compete. So there's always going to be that something competitive or that competition that should get your juices flowing. Sure. And I heard a coach one time says, I need some juice. I need some juice out of you guys today. Find that little something that's going to give you that little extra so this practice goes better. Yeah. And a lot of those things, people may be out of work right now, but they need to find that juice that kind of gets them going like, okay, this next step in my life, this is what I can do, because there's always a lot of opportunity for people. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, that opportunity, but sometimes we got to take a leap of faith and say, you know what, I'm going to go do this. And that might be mentoring kids, going out to a local, say, hey, look, I know a little bit about baseball. I know how to field a ball. I know how to throw the ball. We don't have enough coaches. We don't have coaches for football. We don't have coaches for baseball or basketball, And there's some of these guys I see out here, they're like, well, this guy must be a great coach. You got great players. No, he ain't taught them anything. He just basically runs out a lineup out there and goes with it, whether it's basketball, football, and all that stuff. But being able to, kind of impact like kids for me, being able to, help them enjoy the game of baseball, because a lot of them aren't going to be able to make it to where I got, a majority of them. But you know what? I want that kid to love baseball and to be able to turn on TV and say, let's watch some baseball today. Let's be a fan of it.
All right. Well, before we wrap this up, I wanted to joke around with you about one more thing. I know it was maybe last summer or the summer before you came into the restaurant and was joking around about how I think your kids were playing in a travel tournament or something about how they had to, every year they have to pick a team that they were. And
oh yeah, Luke.
your boys wound up having to wear Cardinal uniform.
Rec league. Always let. I was the manager and the one who provided the jerseys. That was just kind of my.
You didn't have to wear one by chance though.
Oh, I did wear it. Yeah, I had it. Oh, as a matter of fact, I think I still have it at the house.
Is there
it's
any
a big
pictures
red.
of this anywhere?
Oh, I'm sure there is. It's a red shirt, and I had the big SL on the front.
Nice.
But he always picked the teams, and he wanted to be the Cardinals. So they're little pullover, kind of dry fit type things that Tiffany out at Coastal Athletics, those guys put together for me. One was the red uniform that had the big SL on the front. Then we had the light blue one. I went light blue and put Cardinals across the front of it.
The Willie McGee jersey.
Oh, yeah.
The 85.
Now, I wanted the entire uniform, but you have such little time to be able to, when you draft your team, to be able to get fitted for it. I mean, we would have had to get fitted for pants. You know what happens. They send you the pants. Oh, I'll wear size medium, and all of a sudden the kid wears an extra large. So we don't have that much time before the season starts, so I couldn't go with the all blue, because it would have looked good. I would have had the red with the light blue with the stripe on the side. But yeah, definitely we're the Cardinals. We're the Red Sox one year, the Cardinals.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool they do that.
Astros. So
yeah. All right, man. Well, I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That was a good conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's about time for me to go back and put my orders in, because I'm getting a little too heavy. So I can lose some weight.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that goes back to what I was kind of getting at with this whole thing. Yvonne and I, we kind of fell off the horse, and that's kind of, we're looking for that motivation to get back on. We both got our blood work done not too long ago, and I'll be honest, man, neither one of them came back good. We're both under a lot of stress every day. Her sugars came back high. I mean, we both we're out here preaching this lifestyle, and we forgot to live it ourselves. So we're trying to hone it back in, but that's a whole nother conversation. But again, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I appreciate you and Clean Eats, and like us, you've seen it with me. 2 times where I've lost 25 pounds in a month.
Yeah.
With just sticking to your meals, and now granted, I did a good job of gaining it back. I enjoyed it because it was Thanksgiving and Christmas time. Sure. So, but in the same sense, when Catherine found y'all's your business, and I went over there and got a chance to be around both of you guys, but the food, that's what you look for, because we're obviously saturated with fast food restaurants,
right,
and throughout the country and pretty much the world. But it's always refreshing to be able to go to Clean Eats, and now you can go. They're all over the place now. So hats off to you guys for doing a fantastic job with your business.
Thank you. All right, guys. Well, we'll wrap it up, and until next time.